Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first of 3 webinars in our webinar series. Tonight is The Right Supports Make a Difference, a self-advocate perspective. My name is Hannah. I will be our webinar moderator today. I work at Life Course Online, which is a life planning platform and community where you can articulate your needs, pursue your goals, coordinate practical care, and connect with your network of support on a regular basis. This webinar today is presented by Life Course Online and FSNE, the Family Support Network for Employment, which is a family-led coalition that seeks to engage individuals with intellectual disabilities and their family members in support networks and employment, social infrastructure, and resources. We come to you today from the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, the Mississauga of the Credit as well. Today, this meeting place is still the home of many Indigenous people from across Turtle Islands, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on this land. Life Course Online and FSNE have been working together to address the current employment landscape, workplace inclusivity and diversity, and the challenges faced by job seekers with higher employment barriers. The content we've been creating is made possible by funding from the Ontario Ministry of Labour, Training and Skills Development. If you enjoy this webinar or have benefited from any of the content in our employment series, please help us continue making content like this available by completing our program registration form. We're going to send a link to that form. We have an online fillable form as well as a PDF. We'll share that in the comments. If you have any questions or need help, you can get in touch with our support team for filling out the form, doing one-on-ones to help fill out the form. We have helpful videos. If you have any questions about it, you can email them at support@lifecourseonline.com. It helps us to ensure that we can continue creating content like this and making it available for free. Okay, now the exciting part. Today, we'll be hearing from self-advocates Erica Machtinger and Luca Matricciano as they share their experience navigating through employment barriers and different types of supports. And joining our webinar for discussion and Q&A are Ines de Escallon and Mackenzie Ketchell. Okay, Ines is a human rights advocate and a mother of a person with intellectual disabilities. She is co-founder and key member of FSNE, working to bring supports and resources to people with intellectual disabilities and their families. Professor Mackenzie Ketchell teaches in the Developmental Services Worker Diploma and Bachelor of Behavioral Science degree programs at Humber College. In addition, he also has supported people with intellectual disabilities and their families in various direct support and clinical roles. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Okay, we can get into some of the content that we have prepared. We have 2 self-advocates that we'll be hearing from in just a few moments, Erica and Luca, as I mentioned before. Both candidates have had their challenges in finding meaningful employment. These are only 2 stories. There are many more out there, but we hope that this will start a discussion on how systems need to change. There are some key concepts that we will be discussing in this webinar, such as inclusion in the workplace, independence, and representation. But before we do all of that, let's listen to what is not working for Erica and Luca.
I'm here with Erica Machtinger, a self-advocate who is here to share her experience with us in the labor market. Hi Erica, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Excellent, thank you. So talk about yourself, your interests. Do you have a job?
Yeah, so my interests in the hobbies, I guess, are I like photography, I like cooking, exercising, hanging out with friends. I do have a job, very part-time, but I'm still looking for work that's more part-time, or part-time with full-time work, or just full-time job.
Excellent. What has been your experience in searching for a job?
Well, I know through Indeed it's not been very easy, in the labor market, and I think some of the people I find with people with different abilities, it's hard to find, work, and they're not very accommodating, and it's not very easy right now in the labor market, even though there's a lot of jobs out there. They need accommodations or different ways of learning things, but once they know their stuff, they can probably pick it up easy.
So Erica, your first job with Deloitte. Can you explain your experience there?
Yes. Well, before COVID, I was working at Deloitte, which is an accounting firm, but I worked for this cafe, so I was a cafe attendant through 8 Benchmark. So once COVID hit, I had lost my job, and so after that, I was trying to, wasn't working, so I wasn't really earning an income. And then I tried applying back recently, and since they didn't, and I found out they didn't hire people back who were terminated. But I was ready to work full time, and it sucked because I wanted to, work full time, and they weren't hiring people who were terminated, which I don't think was a fair chance, but fair why they didn't do that, because some people were hired back, I wasn't.
Yeah.
But I was ready to work. And
there's people like myself. They're willing to move forward, but they're unable because of the service providers. And I remember a couple years ago, with the first provider which I dealt with, I was grateful. I gone through the interview process. She found me a place for me in the industry which I like to work with. And after 3 months, the job coach, the job developer, she told me that you're on your own after 3 months of placement.
so I would have liked to have somebody who would be able to say, why can I be hired back? I would like to work, I'm ready to work full time, and they should hire everybody back, not just, people who weren't terminated, because I don't think that was fair what they did, and I think, everyone should have a fair and equal chance.
Yeah. Luca, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Excellent. Tell me about yourself. What do you have any interests, likes?
Interested in working in the hospitality and tourism industry because I'm very good in geography. I like to read both spiritual books, and I like to read books about professional growth and development. Between these two content together is a perfect marriage. I work as a grocery clerk at Loblaws as a part-time clerk.
How long have you been employed there?
I'm there for over 4 years, but 4 years has been a lapse, and I'm so eager to move on into my life because I saw other colleagues and other peers the same age as me. They are able to move forward, and I am tired, and I'm sick and being stagnated, and I'm so eager to move on.
So with this current job at Loblaws, do you feel like there's a lack of support for your growth?
Yes. The repercussions was so serious, both the employer and the service provider, both sides. The employer didn't do anything to help me get that hands-on training, that hands-on experience which I'm interested in. That's the first part. The second part, the employment service provider, if something failed with that employer, they get me back on my feet. That's
Right.
the service provider failed to do her part to get me back on my feet.
Right.
Because they knew my vulnerability. I knew I need to get up, get me finished, help me settle in my professional life. Help me facilitate, negotiate on my behalf. What I'm saying, I need to finish. Yeah, I need your help to get me to finish. That's for the service provider. For the employer side, they didn't do me any hands-on training, hands-on experience, and how can I properly interact with other colleagues and customers, because I didn't have the adequate training to support both colleagues and customers alike.
So how did that make you feel?
I felt very deflated, unmotivated, disengaged, and disempowered. Because this was a year after I graduated from college. I didn't spend 3 years of college not to do anything after.
Right.
And I'm willing to use my skills and talents which I acquired from school to put those skills to reality.
Right.
And the skills which I'm using now has been dormanted for the past couple years, and that to me is not acceptable. And this is where the capacity building and relationship management lacks thereof.
All right, as I mentioned before, we have Ines and Mackenzie here with us today to join some discussion. Thank you both for joining us. If anybody has questions for Ines or for Mackenzie, you can put them into the comments either on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you're streaming. We do have a couple of questions here already. We can start with Ines. What resonates with you when you hear about both Erica and Luca's experience?
I think what resonates me from them is that it's a thing that we have heard from many. Of course, Luca and Erica are very well spoken, like they really can put their what they feel in words, and that's not easy for all of the job seekers that we interview and we meet, but the majority of them have the same message. I will highlight that they have the courage to fail, they have the willingness to try, and they have the dignity of risk. And those three things are major contributions for employment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Mackenzie, can you speak to some of the perceptions and barriers of employers?
Yes, I think some of the major challenges and barriers that both Luca and Erica have highlighted relate to some unconscious bias and preconceptions that employers may have about hiring individuals and people with developmental disabilities. Preconceptions related to their expectations and the skills of what people, these job seekers, can contribute to the organization. Preconceptions about the costs and the effort that might be required in order to hire, train, and retain these job seekers and employees. And unfortunately, some of the models that have been previously used around for supported employment have reinforced these biases and preconceptions. Programs such as providing stipends or wage subsidies for employees with developmental disabilities can reinforce those preconceptions and create a big barrier for job seekers with higher barriers to overcome in order to become employed.
Absolutely. And maybe we can just take a second as well to go back to the root of some of these conversations. Ines, can you speak to just why work is important?
Yeah, like when we ask any individual why work is important, is because the same thing that is important for us. In the work is a social role that is expected from any adult. I always say that when you meet someone for the first time, they usually, and you're an adult, they usually ask you, what do you do? Yeah, I always joke and I say, no, with me, they start, where are you from? Yeah, the accent just gives me away. But then they ask me, what do I do? And I think that's what we see in people that are employed, like my son who is employed. He's very proud of his job. He's very proud of letting you know where they are, where they work. Of course, money is very meaningful for any for any person that is employed, yeah. But I think is that we really, and talking back to the biases that people have, is that people with disability do not work. And that's an expectation that gets really highlighted from very early ages, and families sort of buy into it, and the person buys into it. So all the offers that later on they are given is a given that they are going to go to shelter today programs, to shelter workshops, but never employment. So I think a combination of all these things is what we are seeing as obstacles.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. It's a big part of the society that we're all a part of, and it's in large part about it being included in that society. What would you say that Luca and Erica are doing correctly? What's needed, do you think, for them to succeed?
You want me to answer that one? Or
Yeah,
like
sure.
Maybe Mackenzie and I can share that one.
Yeah, sure.
I think one of the things that we hear from Luca and Erica, not do it alone. And this is what we have been telling families. This is not families alone. This is not the individuals alone. They cannot find jobs by themselves. Yeah, they talk about representation. They talk about support. Erica says it's not fair. I need someone to sort of help me. And that's what we've been telling the system. This is not giving them like a lot of jobs that are available, like in LinkedIn or wherever you find jobs available in the internet, they cannot reach those jobs. They need someone to represent them. And I think Mackenzie can talk a bit more about that representation and what it means.
Definitely. So as we discussed some of those preconceptions and those barriers from employers, those often prevent individuals with higher barriers to employment from actually getting a foot in the door if we follow the typical model of developing a resume, applying to jobs, going through the interview process. So the idea of a consultative selling model with third-party representation addresses that. And as Ines just mentioned, what is often needed is someone to represent the job seeker to the employer, and for that person, that third party, the job developer, to start by developing a relationship with the employer first. So the role of the job developer is to go and seek out employers in the community that have a need for employees and people to work. And the job developer develops that relationship with the employer, creates an environment of trust, where then that job developer can go back and with the relationships they've developed with job seekers, start to match job seekers with employers who need people to work and want people to work and need people to provide meaningful work in their organizations and workplaces.
Absolutely. And if viewers are looking for any more information on the consultative selling model, you can go to lcoworks.com. We have a number of employment-based tutorials that we worked with FS&E to develop. So they're all there for anybody to view. We do have some more videos, and then afterwards, we'll have a little bit more discussion as well.
So with that, what do potential employers need to know about your potential and what your capabilities are?
So employers need to know that I can still do things maybe in a different way, or take a little bit longer to learn. But as I've written, for one of the things I would like to have is written instructions and be able to maybe show me the first time or two, and then be able to, once I know and more comfortable, to do it on my own, and also when I'm doing it, to clarify to make sure I'm doing it right. So in case, I need to make sure I'm doing it different, if it's not the right way, to do it the correct way. Also that, we're capable of things, and I just hope that, I'd be able to find a job and, they're willing and able to, keep me on.
Why do you feel that it's important not to be switching jobs and having just short-term jobs and having something that's more long-term? Why would you feel that's...
Because then you have to apply in new setting and new things, but if you have a consistent job that's already, either part-time or full-time, it's more like, it's easier to, not have to learn the new lay of the land and just have to, between the two jobs, it's just easier to have.
Right.
So moving forward, I'd like to have somebody who would help me find work instead of me doing all the work and finding work myself, because, maybe if they have someone like a job developer who would know maybe connection to, help me get me the interview, and possibly maybe that would kind of push going forward to have that, to maybe be able to succeed and get the interview and get the job. Like work like a full-time job like everybody else in society, and feel a part of the community, and feel like everybody else, not just someone who's who doesn't have the capabilities that maybe other people may or may not have.
I used to work for a school bus company. I was there as an administrative assistant, outputting phone calls, filing papers, checking all the bus routes.
Yeah.
And then the reason why it lasted 3 months, because the dispatch staff, even though I'm willing to work with them, they were disengaged. They were not willing to work with me.
Right.
And after 3 months, I will hope they will help me retain, the job coach will help me retain employment. After 3 months, the manager said, I have to let you go. I left. The job coach said, you're on your own. It made me feel so deflated, so demotivated. And I said to myself, you helped me get me through the interview process.
Okay.
And now you let me go after 3 months. I was in a very vulnerable position. I will hope, get me through the interview process, help me get started in life, whether it be through the interview process. And I was also concerned about, more important than the interview process, is retention.
Retention, which is important, yes.
And if you and I'm not in the position to job hop every 3 to 6 months. I'm not that type of person. If I keep job hopping, I ended up ruining my own credibility, and I was not in a position to jeopardize it.
Right.
Get me through the interview process, yes, but help me retain employment for the next 3 to 6 months and make me feel that I'm part of your team.
How could have the job coach helped you retain that job? What would you have suggested that would have been beneficial to you?
Proper etiquette forms, a lack of etiquette forms, how to maintain it to excel, and then after the first 3 months, adequate forms which I need to be aware of at work. Building those competencies, those resiliency skills, make me become resilient, make me feel engaged. Those competencies when it comes to soft skills, relationship management, how to handle situations between drivers or clients. I lack those resiliency skills, and I lack those proper etiquette skills, and I was not fully aware of the policies which I was not aware of, and I lack those things concerning proper etiquette.
So lack of responsibility from the job coach's side, which resulted in you being unprepared for the job at hand, but yet your capabilities would have permitted you to be prepared had the right documentation had been provided to you, correct?
Absolutely, and my goal is to get me settled in life.
Right.
I was not interested for 3 months job hopping here and there. No. I was there for the long haul. I was interested in the long haul.
You said it took you 3 years to find a career coach to help you develop and move a little bit forward. Why did it take so long?
The reason why it took so long is because of the funding changes from the province. And the reason why it took why it took so long, because a couple years ago, I wrote a letter to the Ministry of Labor making a complaint that I was concerned about employment retention. That's the reason why it took so long. And second of all, in the meantime, I made a complaint to the Ministry of Labor, wrote a letter and made a complaint to the ministry, expressing my notice of dissatisfaction.
And how were they able to help you in that process after you made that complaint?
After making that complaint, my support worker made to one of her networking circles. One of the service providers, which is one of the service providers within Peel region, funded and connected with that provider.
Okay.
To a networking process from my support worker to her networking, she was able to find the service provider under that new from that new scheme from the Ministry of Labor, and the region of Peel has been selected, and in one of the first phase. So that's the reason why she got me there.
Oh, I see.
Under that new funding formula, and the region of Peel was the first phase of that funding formula.
And have you continued to keep a relationship with not only your career coach, but with the support that you received?
The support worker and the career coach, yes.
Okay. And has it been going well so far?
So far, so good. I stumbled a little bit, but I'm still committed in working with them.
All right. We have a question here for Mackenzie. So both Luca and Erica are quite clear in our conversations with them about what their needs are. How should they be interacting with service providers?
First, I just want to congratulate Luca and Erica both on their determination, and it's clear that they are motivated and determined to become employed and to continue work. And as they interact with service providers, I think one thing they can do is, as they're looking for service providers or kind of interviewing or meeting service providers, asking about outcomes, asking about not only how many people does that service provider place in jobs, but how long do those people remain in their jobs? What are opportunities for career advancement and development and moving forward? And having those conversations and holding those service providers accountable to long-term employment and employment that's meaningful to them in terms of their interests and their career goals.
Absolutely. Great tips for interacting with service providers. And Ines, what should job seekers or their family members ask for?
So one of the things that I want to highlight is that when you hear Luca and Erica, they are quite clear in what they did, in what they want. Sometimes that's really hard for other job seekers to do. Even for my son, that will be really hard to articulate. So families become a really good source of articulating their feelings, the needs of support. And when we listen to them carefully, much of what Luca and Erica said, it's said by others that are not so well spoken, that cannot articulate so well the obstacles that they are facing. So I want to encourage some families that are hearing these two guys or these two people to not to think about, oh, but this is not my kid. My kid couldn't do it that way. Yeah, that's the way that we usually try to sort of avoid expectations, higher expectations. We've seen a lot of people less skillful with less communication skills, and we, on all of the research that we did, and I don't think if we had here Luca and Erica from the beginning, we shouldn't have done so much research, because they made us understand that what we are asking is that people understand that for being employed, you only need social competence, and just so you heard Luca talked about those skills that he needed. And what we sort of frame in all our work is that people just need to be motivated, reliable, and dependable. So they are motivated to work, they will show to work, and they will do the work to the best of their capacity. And many of the jobs are not as complex as some of the ones that you hear described. Many are very simple jobs, and those are available, but they will never be able to get them on their own. And their families cannot help them. It has to be the employment agencies. And we are sort of providing also tools and resources for them to be able to make the changes.
Mackenzie, so say that somebody has third-party representation. What's key for job seekers to either know or do?
So I think a really important point, and what differs this model from other models, is the long-term involvement. And with the consultative selling model and the third-party representation, it isn't just short-term, that the person is supported to get the position, start the job, and then they're left on their own. This model allows for long-term supports, and I think for job seekers and people who are now employed, I think it's important to continue to utilize that support. And to hold those supports accountable if things aren't going well in the workplace, to ensure that they have support from the job developer or the third party that's helping to support them. But also, if the job isn't what they expected and they want to look at something else, understanding that that's a possibility as well, and communicating that with that third party support as well, so they can help them to navigate those changes or potential changes in their career path.
Thanks so much. And we have a question from a family member. They're wondering what your advice would be or how they could advocate for, this is the family member and her son. She's looking to have more responsibilities for her son in the workplace. So say her son right now is working in inventory, but they would like him to have some experience working with cash or getting more customer service, customer facing experience. How could this family member advocate for additional responsibilities or additional hours if it's a part-time or salary role? What would you recommend?
Let me sort of bring my family perspective. I don't think this is a role for families. And I'm not saying that I don't do it in Julian's place, because we don't have any employment services supporting us on that role. But if that family member goes and see chapter 3 in the LC, in the master classes in the LC Works website, they will see an example that we were able to record in Ottawa. And those things are done by agency. Yeah, they have a relationship with the employer, so they go and advocate for the person that wants those more hours. Eventually, what people will like to do is that the person himself or herself is able to advocate and ask for those things. That might take longer for some, so they still need, and that sort of links to what Mackenzie was saying about longer supports. You cannot just because they have a job leave them on their own. But I think for a family to go into the employment is really very hard, and it's not their role. Yeah, we as families have different roles, but we have taken some roles and responsibilities in the employment system because we don't have any support.
Thank you so much. So we have one more video from Erica and Luca. Let's take a look at that and come back for final comments.
So having a job, do you find it important to you?
Yeah, it's very important because I know representing people with different abilities in the society, we're still able to work, but we may need, different ways of working and different accommodations, but, we're still like everybody else, just in maybe a different way.
Oh, I see. And how has having a job changed your life?
Well, I can earning money myself as opposed to relying on other things, for like relying on how like some people have to rely on government money to, help them support themselves, or parents if they're living at home.
Yeah.
But like, having a job in society feels, you're part of the society and it feels good.
So it gives you a sort of
sense of belonging.
Sort of self independence.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also
That's very important.
Yes,
very
it
important. So it makes you independent. Why do you feel that's important to you?
So independence, not relying on like parents to do things for me, because I also live on my own for for 5 years now, and be able to do things for myself and not have to rely on people to do things for me or to. So I'd like to have people who are able to find work for me instead of me have to do it myself and not be able to land a job in society, and also maybe that they could have some supports to help me maybe get to get an interview instead of just have to have an interview and then maybe be able to have some other supports to maybe hopefully land a job instead of just have to going interview after interview, and have to be able to find work and not have to wait a long time to find work in this society. And now that the job market, people are looking for work and a lot of people are hiring right now. So I think everybody should have a fair and equal opportunity, whether different abilities, because they still could have potential. And I think just they want to be part of society and be able to feel like they're very excited to earn their own money and income and not have to rely on other people's, doing things for them and paying things for them. They want to have, and I think just to be part of society, feeling belonging and feeling like they're belonging in society and included as everybody else, and be able to have to, maybe get something they wanted from working hard.
Absolutely, and they feel happy, I suppose.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you know what? I really do appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, Erica, and enlightening us on your perspective. And thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. This is great.
What support are you looking for? Maybe from your coaches, maybe from the employers, any support system. What are you looking for to get you to that goal?
For my goal to be fulfilled, I need my career coach to negotiate with these potential employers on my behalf to a modified approach, and I need employers who can really understand me, even in spite of expressing my interest and motivation in working with them. I need that relationship management to exist in order for me to function effectively, and that's all I'm asking for them. And I need colleagues who are working for that employer to build that relationship building, so this way I can excel with them.
What is your dream job?
I'd like to pursue a career in the hospital and tourism, whether it be in front desk or guest services, either in the hotel, either in lodging or travel services.
And would you feel motivated and engaged in a job like that?
Yes, this is where I can engage with guests and more importantly colleagues. Because it's very important to interact with the colleagues, so this way I can support them and they can support me effectively. The reason why it's so important to have meaningful and sustainable careers, so this way they can grow, increase their resiliency and competency. If they like to do a career stage later on, they have those competencies. They don't have to run around and asking for help from an employment service provider. There's a point in our lives as professionals, we need to move on. And a small segment of professionals, the reason why they're unable to move on, because the support networks they have are fragmented. And they do not need a fragmented support system. And many of those vulnerable folks are eager to move on, but they need direction. And you cannot give those individuals a blank statement, it's not going to work, without backing the reason why it's not going to work.
Thank you for taking time to share your story. We've learned a lot, and I wish you all the best. I think things will turn around for you very quickly. With the attitude and the vigor you have, I wish you all the best.
And I'm just praying for a happy ending. That's all I must say.
Well, we're all rooting for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's clear that Luca and Erica are both very motivated to work, just like so many others in the audience that want to contribute to society today. Now, there's been a lot of conversation around services and programs. Do you think services should be funded in a different way, and how would you recommend that?
Yeah, the employment system has to be funded different. Yeah, we are seeing one of the biggest obstacles for funding for people that have higher obstacles to employment is that the government will only fund agencies who get employees, 20 hours a week of work. And some of them won't make 20 hours, so agencies tend not to get those job seekers as their clients. So there's a lot of issues that need to go to funding, and I think that's what FSNE is trying to advocate for, the changes that the employment system needs.
Thank you. And if, we've covered a lot of topics, a lot of great discussions today. If there's one message that you want to leave our viewers with, what would it be? We'll start with Mackenzie.
I think it's probably something that many of our viewers already are hopefully believing in, is the idea that employment is an important factor of a good life, and that it should be the expected normative path for any adolescent or adult, regardless of ability. That those conversations should start early, and that the expectation should be that individuals with developmental disabilities will work and be employed. And I think the consultative selling model with third-party representation is a good approach to overcoming some of the barriers that presently exist related to employment.
And Ines?
My final comment is a bit like, we know the system needs a lot of change, yeah? And usually we try to sort of blame someone else for the change. But the only person that I can be responsible for change is for myself. So if you are a family member, if you are a service provider, look at yourself, look at what you are doing and say, how can I change? How can I higher expectations for these employees? Where is that I personally can change? And there is where change starts.
Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today. After this live stream stops, it will be available by recording on both Facebook and YouTube. So if we weren't able to get to all of the comments today, we'll be able to get to them in our next webinar. You can feel free to keep commenting if you come up with anything that you'd like us to cover in our upcoming series. Thank you, Ines. Thank you, Mackenzie, for sharing your thoughts and experiences with us today. Thank you to Luca and Erica, who shared their experiences and the conversations we had on the videos. We have an incredible amount of resources available on Life Course Online, so please do feel free to visit the site, take a look at what's available there, get in touch with our team, and let us know your thoughts. Stay tuned on our social media for updates on our upcoming webinar series. Our next webinar will be this coming Thursday, next Thursday, January 26th at 7 p.m. Again, same time, same place. The webinar will be Shaking It Up, Ottawa's Job Market, a conversation with Live, Work, Play. Live, Work, Play is based in Ontario and helps the community welcome and include people with intellectual disabilities, autistic persons, and individuals with dual diagnosis to live, work, and play as valued citizens. We'll learn about their work supporting people with developmental disabilities, finding work in the public and private sectors, and we'll get to chat with their incredible team. We hope you're able to join us then. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope everybody has a great night.